Thank you, Desh, and hello again. This is Viti Bindra, Conference Co-Chair, IIT 2020 Virtual Summit, and I'm honored and privileged to have Dr. Guru Raj Deshpande, President and Chairman, Sparta Group LLC, joining us from Boston, Massachusetts. So again, he's a known name, and he doesn't need any introduction. But let me go through my notes, 4 or 5 lines about Desh. So Dr. Deshpande founded Cascade Communication and Sycamore Networks and has chaired and funded several other companies. He's a life member of the MIT Corporation. The Deshpande Foundation supports social entrepreneurship and provided the founding grant for NSF Innovation Corps. It's called as I-Corps, and Deshpande Center at MIT. Deshpande holds a B.Tech from IIT Madras, ME from University of New Brunswick in Canada, and PhD from Queen's University, Canada. Desh also co-chaired the National Council to support President Obama's innovation and entrepreneurship strategy from 2010 to 2015. So welcome, Desh.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Vidi.
Thank you. So Desh, let's start. And I have something in my mind I want to share with you. And as you know, we have maybe close to 10,000 plus audience watching you from maybe 40 different countries. So could you please share your journey from IIT Madras to Boston, US? And in what ways did your time at IIT Madras prepare you for your leadership roles? And how has the broader IIT network helped you in your career?
Well, Viti, I think it's been a long journey, but maybe let me see if we can summarize it, because I went to IIT in 1968, long before a lot of you were born, a lot of your parents were born. So it's been a long journey. And those days, when you went to IIT, it wasn't like today. It wasn't like you prepared for hundreds of years and then got into IIT. You just woke up one day morning, you went and wrote the exam, and you sort of, if you got in, you'd get a letter and you would go join. But I didn't even know what IIT was, even after I went there. I went there mostly because a friend of my father said, IITs are good, you should go there. And only after going there did I realize how valuable that whole environment and the education was. So I can break up my journey into 3 parts. And none of this was pre-planned, just like going to IIT was not pre-planned. The whole journey was not pre-planned. So first 10 years, 73 to probably next decade, was mostly just being a good academic, doing well at IIT, doing well in master's, PhD, taught for a year, became a good researcher and so on. The following 10 years were more working for a company. It just so happened that I got a job at Motorola and started working for them. But then it was a little startup that Motorola had just bought. And so I had the opportunity to somehow get in there. And then we built a pretty good business, a $100 million business, 400 people, went from about 20 people. So that was my taste of a startup. So that 10 years of working for Motorola got me interested in entrepreneurship. And then over the next journey was actually building a lot of companies, Cascade Communication, Sycamore Networks, and a whole bunch of other companies. And then the last 15, 20 years has been mostly working on foundation. How do you make more opportunities available for everybody else, like the opportunities that I and my wife had ourselves. My wife is also from IIT Madras, Jayashree. And so both of us are pretty excited about figuring out ways so that everybody in the world has same opportunities that we do.
Excellent. So going ahead with this amazing journey you had, you have started category defining companies, and you have continued to support founders from across globe through your foundation, as everybody know. How do you compare the opportunities available to the founders to start the company today versus when you started your first company?
So, starting companies and entrepreneurship now has become a career. It was not a career when we were starting. My first company was, I think I started thinking about it in 86, 87 in Boston. And so in all of Boston, there were probably maybe half a dozen entrepreneurs. The biggest venture capital fund would have maybe $10 million. So if you really, for the very first company, we raised about 3 million. But to raise that $1 million, I mean, you had to go without salary for a year. It was more like if they wrote you a check for $1 million, the venture capitalists wanted to make sure that if it didn't work, you hurt a lot more than they hurt. So you had to mortgage your wife, your kids, your home, everything else, right? And if things went wrong, it took you a lot more time to recover. And also, because the ecosystem did not exist, you had to do everything yourself, all the way from, it was almost like you had to go by wire. You had to get these Ethernet connectors and build your own Ethernet network. And so the ecosystem was not there. But now I think entrepreneurship has become a career. Also because the world is changing so rapidly. We have seen how rapidly the world is changing. And whenever the world changes rapidly, each one of us have two options. Either we lead the change or we grudgingly accept the change. And so leading the change is what careers are all about. Well, it doesn't matter whether you work for a company or whether you start a company, whether it's intrapreneurship or entrepreneurship, you're constantly facing changes and you're saying, how can things be better? And you're going to champion that change. And so entrepreneurship now has become a career choice. It's not really a one-time shot. And if it doesn't work, you have nothing to worry. You get that much better in the next one. And every opportunity that you sincerely work at and work hard, you get better positioned to be more successful in your next venture.
Yeah, no, I very well said. I was having a fireside chat with the Jyoti Bansal, who sold his company to Cisco for 3.2 billion. And the message he gave was, you have to be persistent and have the passion and keep on doing it. You can't just leave, just have to just keep on doing it, what you're saying. So that's fantastic. So Desh, you have been a major pioneer in networking and communications. During the present pandemic, because of COVID-19, the whole world has relied significantly on the strengths of networking and communication, not just for the social interaction, but for also for education and global economy, innovation, work. Did you even imagine the role that communications would play several decades later? Do you see the? I'm just on the pandemic. So, do you see the COVID-19 as an enabler of many of the world's innovative spirits? However ironic it may seem.
No, it's just amazing. It's an amazing experience to see this transformation within one lifetime. When I started in the 70s, if you could send 300 bits per second over a phone line, that was the high-speed data communications, right? And so seeing from 300 bits to 3,000 to 3 million to 3 trillion to 30 trillion to 100 trillion, it's just mind-boggling, right? But those days, the big thing was technology could not keep up with the demand. People really wanted to send data at 96 bits per second, but you could only sell 1,200. So every time you made that next piece of technology available, it had a huge margin and a huge opportunity to build companies. But now, the amount of innovation that's going on in core technologies, I've been on the board of MIT for 20 years, and I get to see what's going on, whether it's nanotechnology or biotechnology, any of these things. In fact, we had the MIT board meeting yesterday, and I got to understand this vaccine just came out of Moderna and so on, and how quickly that whole thing came together. So technology is becoming available so rapidly that putting technology to use is now the real opportunity. When we were engineers coming out of IITs, just doing technology itself was good enough, because you essentially did better technology so that more engineers could use your technology.
Right.
Every time we did communications, It was mostly to make other engineers design better, allowing Ford Motor Company to communicate better with their vendors and so on. But now it's really, really spreading everywhere. And what's fascinating is because we spend a lot of time right now in more semi-urban and rural India, their ability to embrace technology has been just amazing. It's amazing to see how widely that technology is spreading, even for the benefit of people who you would not expect to be a part of that technology revolution and technology crowd. And so I think technology it's a big leveler. We have to make sure that it benefits everybody in the world. Otherwise, we will create a world where some people are having a lot of fun with technology, people who are automating with all this new technology, and people who are being automated. So as long as I think all the smart IITians who are very privileged to have such a good opportunity in life, don't forget that we have to create opportunities for everybody with this technology. I think the world will do extremely well.
Excellent. Fantastic. So the Desh Raj Foundation has facilitated numerous social entrepreneurship initiatives and innovation corps. So tell me honestly, candidly, how satisfied you are with the results of philanthropic ventures you have undertaken?
Well, it's a journey. It's a journey. Philanthropy is a little bit like playing with fire. Sometimes people get very excited, very motivated to help people. And there's a feeling that if only you just wrote a big check, or if you just gave up your life and just spent all the time, you could solve the problems. So it's a little bit like going and sticking your hand right inside the fire, and then you get burnt. And then people become bitter, and then they're bitter for themselves, and they just run away from it, and then they're useless to the world also, right? So there's a little bit of that experience, because initially when you get in with a huge amount of enthusiasm, hoping that you're going to change everything. But as you gain more experience, you understand how complex it is. It's a lot more complex than any technology field that you work in. And it requires a lot more persistence, a lot more patience, a lot more commitment to actually wanting to do it for a long period of time. But it's amazing. I think to give you an example of the two contrasts that I experience, we're doing a lot of work in India. So we go there pretty much 4 times a quarter, and you go work there. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I mean, most of these people in little villages are maybe a 1 or maybe 2 on the scale of 0 to 10. But going from 1 to 1.5 is a piece of cake. You don't have to do that much to actually go from 1 to 1.5. But when you go to 1.5, it's amazing to see the hope and the how excited people are, right? And that momentum that you create, the hope that you create, becomes your biggest asset in terms of moving that whole ball forward, and the satisfaction that you get out of it. And then I come back and go to the MIT meetings. MIT on a 0 to 10 is probably 9.5. And you get smartest of the smartest people there saying, well, 9.5 is not good enough. We need to get to at least 9.6. And so you're again working. I mean, that's also very important, because you need super excellence. You can't crack all that nanotechnology without that tremendous amount of discipline and rigor and everything else that you have. So engaging in philanthropy, particularly making opportunities available for people who don't have them, in some ways, the kickback is more immediate. When you see a difference that you make in life of somebody, that satisfaction is just unbelievable.
Excellent. So it will not be wrong to say that you really believe in giving back. And we have seen what you have done. You have made a difference in the common man's life. And there are plenty of examples, and I don't have the time to share. But what message would you like to give to the fellow IITians on the need for the service above all, particularly during such challenging times?
Well, it's not really giving back. It's really making sure that you have the most amount of fun in life, right? So when you get fun, you have fun in life when you're tackling a problem that's challenging enough, and it's something that excites you. I think almost it doesn't matter what you do, everything is exciting in life, but after a while you do the same thing and it becomes a chore, and then you get tired of it. You don't want to do that anymore. Just like when you get your first job and the company pays you to go in a plane and live in a hotel, you can't believe it, right? And then you do it for a while, and then that becomes the worst nightmare for you. And so I think you have to continuously keep inventing yourself. So the people who have graduated from IIT, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, make sure that you keep your life alive. Don't keep doing the same thing. If it's exciting, fantastic. I mean, so what is the acid test? The acid test is, are you getting up in the morning and being excited about what you're doing? If you're not, then you better reinvent yourself, right? And for the people who are still in IITs, who just got into IITs and are getting in there, what I would tell them is that, they got into IIT these days, particularly by working really hard, working really, really, really hard on a specific problem and learning all the skills that you need to actually crack that joint entrance exam. And in IIT, once you go, it's very competitive, and you learn a lot of different skills. But the world is changing. A long time ago, the education paradigm was you learned everything there is to know about a particular topic, and then you practice that profession. Whereas now, it's not really knowing everything. It's really falling in love with a problem and being passionate about wanting to solve a problem. And when you want to solve a problem, you don't look at boundaries. You don't really say, do I need chemical engineering or electronics or computers or psychology or resources? You do whatever it takes to solve the problem. So I would say the students in the colleges these days should really learn that part where they find ways to fall in love with problems, and then they use all the resources around them, including knowledge, to crack that problem.
Excellent. No, one thing, fantastic message. So again, as you know, you are the role model of a lot of IITians. And right now, as I told you, more than 10,000 people have logged on and watching you live. And there are a lot of IIT startups. There are a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in our conference. The title we gave is "The Future is Now," right? So when I say the future is now, what comes to your mind immediately?
Well, the future has always been now. If people keep saying, when is a good time to start a new venture? It's always a good time to start a new venture. And I think it's just a question of, when are you ready for it? So people who are ready for it should just jump in and start doing things. And I think opportunities are everywhere. Like every time the world has a problem, it's an opportunity. And the world has many problems. But are you perceptive enough to keep your eyes open and to notice those problems? Or are you one of these oblivious people who just walk around not even noticing what's around you? So see the problems, fall in love with something that you want to do, and you have to believe in it. You have to say, because solving any problem, doesn't matter whether it's a big problem or a small problem, it's hard. Because once you get going, there's nothing but bad news. It's a lot harder than what you thought. It takes longer than what you thought. It requires more money than what you thought. And so it's nothing but trouble. Because it's nothing but trouble, you better solve a problem that's really worth solving, because you have to stay with it for a long period of time. So as long as you believe that a problem that you're trying to solve is worth solving, and if you did solve the problem, the world will be a better place, that gives you all the strength that you need to actually keep with it and build a team and get the resources and do everything you need to do to actually solve the problem.
Excellent. Fantastic. So thank you, Desh, for your time, and thank you for making time for us. And finally, on behalf of the IIT 2020 conference team, global conference team, I would personally like to thank you for sharing your journey. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and learn from you. and how you have redefined the problems and what you have done for the world. Hats off to you. So once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Pan IIT USA will be in touch with you for your support, for your guidance. Whatever we can get from you, will be delighted, will be very fortunate. So Desh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Viti.